Mooi.
Yeah, we can see you again, Anne.
Yeah, I'm visible, but two of our attendees are not visible yet, so I don't know if they have given permission yet. Okay, that's one more to go, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have everyone? Shall we just get started?
Yeah, just get started.
Okay. Let me show you, and that's our beautiful first slide again. So yeah, welcome everyone to this very small information session. Still glad to see some people show up on this early Friday morning. You've already seen my coworkers. It's just the three of us today, and I'll quickly talk you through what we're going to discuss. So we'll start with all the practical information, the how and what of the Comenius program. You already know that the session will be recorded and placed on our website. We put on this slide that you can ask some questions regarding the presentation, but like my coworkers already said, you could raise your hand. They will then interrupt me because I'm not able to see any raised hands. I'm just looking at the PowerPoint right now. And then we have two speakers here who have some experience both on the application side of things as well as committee experience, and we will have some space for more questions at the end. So let me first introduce you to the team. Not everyone is here today, but this is the team that will be helping everyone throughout the application process in the upcoming year. Alison, would you like to come forward and introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Alison. I am the Secretary of the Leadership Fellows this year, and I also am the coordinator of the Comenius program.
Thank you. Then my coworker Didi is not available here today, but she will be the secretary for Senior Fellows, and I will be her program assistant also in Senior Fellows. And then there's Lina.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Lina. This year I'm the secretary of the Teaching Fellows, and our colleague Laura is not here today, but she will also be supporting on the Teaching Fellows round.
Yep. So first up, some background and objectives of the Comenius program. That program was first issued in 2017. That was under Jet Bussemaker, who was Minister of Education at the time. And back then, when I was still a student, they came up with the idea that the student grant system would have to become a student loan system that would free up some budget that formerly directly went to students, and now it was available to reinvest into higher education. And one of the ways in which that reinvestment would take place was the Comenius program. There have been some changes in the whole system, but the Comenius program is still around, and we use it to, first and foremost, improve the quality of Dutch higher education. But we also want to create more recognition and appreciation for an educational career. And we do that by granting the fellowship grants to teachers who can then develop themselves through their projects, and they will be admitted to the Comenius network of educational innovators, where they can exchange knowledge and expertise, also share new ideas and learn from one another. And as such, that will also improve our higher education in this country. So the grants that we have available this year are as follows. We have the Teaching Fellows, the Senior Fellows, and the Leadership Fellows. As you can see, those are for different sums of money. That is one of the big differences. The other one is the impact that we expect each one to make. So we have 44 grants available for Teaching Fellows at 50,000 euros, and the aim is to have an impact on course level. Then Senior Fellow grants will have an impact on program or faculty level. There are 22 grants available at 100,000 euros. And then we have 4 leadership grants for 500,000 euros available, and those projects should aim to have an impact on the institutional level or even across institutions. Those funds are evenly distributed over the universities of applied sciences and research universities, so those two are not in competition with one another. And then for teaching fellows and senior fellows, the funds are also distributed across 4 themes. And this year we have 4 additional teaching fellow grants available, 2 for the universities of applied sciences and 2 for research universities. And those will be allocated at the very end based on ranking across themes. So we have the following themes this year for teaching and senior fellow. We have those also explained in detail in the call for proposals, but I'll briefly highlight what each one is about. So the first one is education forms of the future. So how can we successfully implement new forms of education in such a way that students will really benefit from it? You can think of student-driven education, learning communities, and challenge-based learning. Then there's diversity and inclusion, which focuses on how different student groups can be better helped to successfully navigate their way into and through higher education. And we basically see diversity in the broadest sense of the word. So you can think of social, economic, cultural, and ethnic background, but also religious beliefs, functional disability, and educational background of students themselves. And we hope to basically provide a better connection between secondary and higher education for a very diverse student body as we have nowadays. Then there's theme 3, which is the connection to the labor market, because our colleges and universities aim to prepare students for a labor market that is rapidly developing, and there are some big challenges in how to keep up with the labor market and keep our students prepared for what is to come. Theme 4 is actually completely free. I usually define it as the one where you go if your project doesn't have a clear connection with any of the previous ones. And a project within theme 4 should arise from the curiosity of the applicant. Now, for leadership fellows, it's basically completely free. It can be anything, but the project has to align with the institution's strategic plan. So it should add to and align with the institution's ambition to profile itself nationally and internationally in the chosen area. Then each application will be assessed on 4 criteria, and those 4 criteria reflect the aims of our program. So you'll see that the innovative nature and the educational profile are each 30%, so they are slightly more important in this program than you might expect if you have experience with other programs of NRO. The innovative nature of the project is basically all about to which extent the project seeks to implement an innovative solution. But it's also very important to show how the project is different from similar projects that may already exist at other institutions. Then there's the expected results, which look at the product that will be delivered, what it will look like, but also asks the question if the applicant properly demonstrates that this innovation that they want to implement is the best solution for the problem at hand. Then the quality of the project plan is 20%, so that's the activities, methods, and planning of the project plan should all be clearly defined. Are they appropriate to achieve the intended results? There's also a risk analysis involved. Is that one well, not just included, but does it demonstrate the feasibility of the project? The quality also includes the project team in this criteria. So are the different roles and division of tasks clear and appropriate? All those questions. And then finally, the educational profile of the applicant, which means that our committee will look at the profile of the applicant and see if it matches the profile we have in mind for teaching fellows, senior fellows, leadership fellows based on their experience, their current role. We also look at the professional statement that will have to be provided and see if that testifies of a broader but personal vision on education and how that connects to the project. Now, I've probably been saying we, but we of NRO are not the ones assessing everything. We do assemble an assessment committee, which has 4 types of members. So there will be someone with theme-related expertise. That's generally a teacher who combines education and research into the theme. So for teaching and senior fellows, each theme will have its own committee, which includes a theme-related expert. Then there's an educational researcher or educationalist who has more of a view on the current theories and theoretical background necessary to implement the projects. And then the experts in educational innovation projects are the ones who usually bring in some more practical insight on implementation and how to work certain projects in real life. And last but definitely not least are the students, because each project, of course, has to directly benefit students. So we find it very important that they get to let their voice be heard early on. And they join our committee. They also discuss each proposal, and they usually come up with very refreshing insights that some of the committee members don't even think of anymore because it's been a while since they were on that side of the classroom. So the students are always very involved and a very vital part of our assessment committee. Now, we're always looking for people who want to join an assessment committee. It's a great way to gain some inspiration, get to know the process from the inside out. Like the slide says, meet some like-minded people. You can always sign up by mail, sending an email to comenius@nro.nl. But I have to point out that if you want to apply to, for example, a senior fellow grant, you cannot join a senior fellow committee because that would be judging other people who are probably in competition. So you could join the teaching committee or the leadership, but not the one that you're applying to yourself. Now we'll be moving on to the overview of the procedures and deadlines. Not every step of the procedure, not every phase is applicable to every level of the Comenius grants, so I will point out which is relevant to which. The dates that you see on the slide right now are already published and are in the call already that's been online, so these are official. They will not change, although the ones in March and January, for example, will be specified further down the road. We're starting off with the letter of intent, which is for all 3 levels, and the deadlines are at the beginning of September. The letter of intent is a mandatory part of the whole process. So if you don't submit a letter of intent, it stops right there. We use the letter of intent as an indication of the maximum amount of applications. That helps us at NRO to determine the required size and composition of the committee. But it also functions as a safety net for multiple letters of intent per faculty or institution, because we do have a cap in the senior and leadership fellows. For leadership, we can have 1 applicant per institution, and for senior, we now have a rule of 1 per faculty and then 8 per institution. So it's highly recommended that if you want to apply in one of those levels, that you check with your subsidy advisor if there are any other potential applicants at your institution. After we have received all the letters of intent, we will report the number of possible applicants. This can also be used as information on probability and considering if you want to move forward. If there are, for example, a lot of applications in your chosen theme, you might want to take that into consideration before moving forward. So what you'll have to do is submit a short summary in Isaac. There's no form specifically for the letter of intent, but you do have to indicate the theme if you want to apply to teaching or senior, and the theme is already definitive. So if you have a project that would fit with multiple themes, pick and choose the one that has the best match and confirm it on that one, because it cannot be changed afterwards. And then I also have to point out that the letter of intent is not assessed by the committee, so this is more information for us and setting everything up and getting everyone on board, see what is going to happen in the upcoming year. Then we'll move on to the preliminary application for teaching and senior, so leadership does not have this step. This is basically a pitch of the project, so you'll have to convince the committee of the innovative nature and expected results of your project, criteria 1 and 2. And the members of the assessment committee will then briefly assess all the proposals and discuss it as a committee as well. The preliminary applications are not compared with each other, which is to say that there will be no ranking at this point. They basically draw up a recommendation at this point and communicate to the applicants on whether or not to develop the proposal into a full application. So you'll get advice, positive or negative, and that is advice. It's not a full decision, so it's not binding. If you receive negative advice, you can still choose to move forward and turn your letter of your preliminary application into a full application. And the aim of this phase is basically to reduce the workload, not just on our side, but also on side of the applicants, because we know it takes a lot of time to turn a preliminary application into a full application. And if the committee already thinks that one of the proposals has a smaller chance of being granted in the fellowship, then that might be a reason to say, okay, we're not moving forward with this. This part, as I already said, is not part of the leadership procedure because there's only one proposal per institution, so it's not necessary to work with advice and sort this out. Now we're moving on to the next step, which is the full application. This is in October for leadership already because there's no preliminary application phase, which shortens the road between letter of intent and full application. And it's in January for teaching and senior. So the full application will be assessed on all criteria, which means that quality of the project plan will now be assessed as well, and the educational profile also. This does not mean that the first two criteria will not be assessed. What you have previously written may be changed or adjusted in the full application. You must also add a budget to your application at this point to indicate which costs there will be and to justify the requested amount. Dissemination, evaluation, risk analysis will also be judged at this point. And then we're moving on to preliminary advice for senior and leadership. After we have the full applications, we send the full applications to some members of our assessment committee, and they will write a preliminary advice. This is not part of the teaching fellows procedure because of the small subsidy budget and in order not to unnecessarily complicate that procedure. So the preliminary advice will be anonymized and sent to the applicants, who will then have the chance to write a rebuttal in March for senior and in January for leadership. And in previous years, we also had reference, write a report for leadership. That part has been taken out. So it's just a preliminary advice for both senior and leadership now. In the rebuttal, the applicant can answer questions that the committee members have asked in their preliminary advices or clarify some things, correct factual errors, basically respond to everything that the committee members have said in their preliminary advice. But there's, of course, a maximum word count, which is 1,000 words for senior fellows and 1,500 words for leadership fellows. So even though we've taken part of the procedure for leadership fellows out, the maximum word count for the rebuttal is still at 1,500 words. And those rebuttals are also included in the assessment of the senior fellows and in interview selection and assessment for leadership fellows. So the full package will be taken into consideration. Now, we have an assessment meeting for teaching a senior, and leadership has an interview selection meeting. So that's where it splits up again. In March of next year, the assessment committee will prepare for these meetings, and the assessment will then follow. During the assessment meeting, all applications are scored independently, so they are not compared, but these scores will result in a ranking. So the applications are discussed, and then each committee member scores each application per criterion. They score it on a scale which ranges from 9, which is insufficient, to 1, which is excellent. So exactly opposite to what we're used to in Dutch schools. The scores will be turned into qualifications, insufficient, good, very good, or excellent. And those result in an average score for the application and an average qualification. All those will be put into a ranking, and based on that ranking, we will give advice to the Higher Education Program Committee on which applications to award the grant. Important to know is that each application must score at least good on all criteria, so insufficient on just one criteria means that there's no chance of being awarded with a grant. For leadership fellows, as I already said, it will be a bit different. The assessment actually takes place in 2 phases. So all applications are discussed in the interview selection meeting, and that will result in a list of the 8 most promising proposals, 4 per sector, and those will be invited for an interview. And after the interview, the committee members will then score again, in which a new ranking is created that will be forwarded to the Higher Education Program Committee. And then for leadership only, we'll have interviews in April with those final 4 per sector, like I said. And that leads us to the decision that will be taken in May of 2026. So that means that we make a report here at NRO, which includes the attendees, the committee members, procedure followed. We will include per application scores and motivation of the committee's opinion, which is an overview of the strong points and the weaker points and how the applicant responded to those in the rebuttal. And the report will also include the advice on the allocation of grants. And then the program committee will decide based on these reports whether the recommendations of the committee will be followed and which grants will be awarded. And once we have that decision, we will communicate it to the applicants as soon as possible. If you are awarded a grant, you will join the Comenius network, which is a network of innovators in higher education. I already mentioned it at the very start. So the aim of this network is to stimulate and support educational innovation at both universities of applied sciences and the research universities by bringing all our Comenius fellows together. We have different activities to bring everyone together. So there's a kickoff at the beginning of the year to welcome new members. Everyone is given a profile on the website. You'll be invited to activities such as the Comenius Festival, which will be next week. And we hope that in this way, members will be able to find each other, exchange ideas, maybe even come up with new collaboration and apply for a higher step in the Comenius Fellows program. And you can also join one of the 5 circles, which serve as learning communities that have central themes listed here. So inclusion, transdisciplinary collaboration, sustainable teaching, student development, and embedding change. If you want to know more about it, we'll send the slides and you can click on the link to the site of the Comenius network. And then finally, some small tips if you think of submitting an application. The most important one is to contact your subsidy advisor or other policy officer who can help you with your application. And that's especially recommended with regard to the limits on applications for the senior and leadership fellows, because they will have more of an overview of other potential applicants at your institution. And they can also help you with tips and guidance on writing proposals and such, because we at NRO do not offer such courses or training. We only have some YouTube videos with 7 tips on writing a good application. Those are linked on the slide as well. But other than that, we do not really offer any help in writing the application itself. But it is useful to follow us on our website, socials, or our newsletter. Are there any questions at this point? Because this concludes the whole practical part of our presentation. And I can't see those, so one of my colleagues will have to speak up if there's a question.
Yes, thanks, Anna. I see that Alberto has a question.
Yes, thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. I have a couple of practical questions. So I see for the teaching fellowship, I see that there is like the eligibility. You must have at least 2 years of, at the start of the project, you should have at least 2 years of teaching experience. Does it matter if it's part-time, or should it be like, does it matter the percentage of teaching you have? And that's my first question. I'm going to ask the questions and then maybe you can choose. I was wondering whether you have some information on success rates. So how difficult was it to get it in the past? And whether for the letter of intent, it's enough to have theme and just an abstract in the title. Yeah, that's all my question. Thank you.
Lena, do you want to answer that as Secretary of Teaching?
Yes. So for the letter of intent, you were right. So it doesn't have to be a long paper of your abstract. It can just be a title, your theme, and like shortly describe your plan. Right, Alison? I'm looking at you to see if I don't forget anything important.
No, for sure. Yeah.
And I'm not sure about the success rate. Do you know that maybe, Alison?
I just got the overview of how many people applied last year. For this year was kind of similar numbers. But it is good to keep in mind that every year the amount of applications we see can fluctuate a lot. So this is just to give you a general impression, but it is no guarantee at all. These are like fixed percentages, because last year's we also with the COVID, we saw a dip of how many applications we got, and we're now only recovering. So I do not have any like years of data, but last year, for example, for the teaching fellows, we received 186 pre-applications, of which 108 got a positive advice. And in the end, well, there's a fixed number then how many people actually like submitted and got it. And then at the end, so like 40 people get it out of those. For the senior fellows, we had 83 pre-applications, of which 41 people got a positive advice. And so in that case, it was like 58% of the people who submitted a full application received it. But you have to know that the amount of people that have submitted application is usually kind of a fixed number. With the pre-application is usually, we don't want to have too many people write an application for nothing. So the pre-application numbers, I think, are a bit more interesting. And for the leadership fellows, it's usually more stable. That's around 18 to 22 people submit a pre-application or a letter of intent. We don't have pre-application for leadership. And the year before that, so then that was this year. And then last year we had 190 pre-applications for teaching fellows. And we had 76 pre-applications for the senior fellows. So those numbers were kind of similar then. Does that
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very useful. And I'm on the part of the eligibility. So whether the teaching experience should be, does it really matter how much percentage was it? Yeah.
So the teaching experience is kind of a bit of a broad definition. It doesn't have to be that you have to like show a contract of 2 years of full-time teaching. Teaching experience can also be working like as a subsidy advisor, working on creating courses, anything like involving with teaching, and then at least 2 years that you can show you've been working with like teaching or teaching adjacent job.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see that Brandon has also raised his hand.
Yes, thank you. I just have two questions also. One, can you maybe speak a little bit more about what is eligible in terms of the budget? And the second, in terms of deciding between a teaching fellow and a senior fellow, is there some sort of criteria that we should be aware of in terms of how you see the portfolio or the other than I know you mentioned that one is more sort of program oriented versus one is course oriented, but sometimes that can be a bit, there's different ways of seeing that, right? So 2 courses can be a program.
Yeah, it's about the scale of things, and to give an indication, most teaching fellows are indeed at course level. Just to give you an idea of that is what you likely can achieve also with the budget at 50,000, whereas senior fellows are usually indeed at a larger, like at faculty level. Of course, it doesn't have to be restricted of one of the two, but usually we see that the programs of this size usually have are at that scale. So. It's not necessarily fixed that it has to be one course. It can be 2 courses. It can be courses between different institutes, but it also has a risk that it might be too big of a project for that kind of money. So it's more just to give you an idea of what you can expect to be able to do with a grant of 50,000. For your first question, you asked about the budget. Can you specify what you mean with eligibility of budget?
Yeah, so does it, I guess teaching materials would be included, buyout of our time, I don't know, and student assistantship, what is possible?
Yeah. So for regarding the budget, I can give you some basic information because usually people from our project team who really will look at your budget form and everything. Call of proposals also give you some more information on this. But for example, of the budget, maximum of 30% can be allocated to materials. And that would be buying like the necessary equipment and things like that. There are some restrictions that I don't know just out of my head. You'll have to look into the call of proposals for that. And there is indeed also a percentage that will be allocated to the main applicant or the dual applicant in case of the dual application. And also indeed like student assistants and external people can be hired within the budget. But I'm very afraid right now to say of which pocket of the budget that will be from, but there is a possibility to indeed pay also the hours of other people working on the project from it. Alberto, do you have another
Yeah,
question?
sorry, another question. Yes. So I understand for teaching fellowship, it doesn't matter if people are from the same institution, so right? So multiple people from the same institution can join. But I was wondering what you mean by institution. Is it the entire university, or is it same department for the other fellowships? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, for institution or comparable organizational institutes, we indeed usually refer to like your entire university or your entire University of Applied Sciences. But you are indeed allowed to work with people from other institutes, so other universities, or even other universities of applied sciences. In which case, the institutes and the sector from which an application is submitted is the main applicant's one. And that's just in case of dual application. But for your project team, you are indeed allowed to have people added from any place, can also be outside of education. Sometimes you see external advisors, for example, being added there as well. So project team is quite easy with that. But the restriction of has to be like either university or University of Applied Sciences, that's for the applicants.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, that helps.
Okay, well, at the end, there's also always time for questions if anything else pops up. Anna, do you think we should go to our guests of honor? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Should I take it over or?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So for now we have invited two speakers that are experts both in the application product process of the Comenius program as well as experience as committee members. And for today we have Ingrid van Rompuy-Bartels from the Han University of Applied Sciences, and we have Tim Itzega. I hope that I pronounce your last name okay enough, from the Hogeschool Utrecht. Maybe we can start with giving a short introduction about who you are, your background, and of course your involvement with the Comenius program. And perhaps I can first give the floor to Tim, so he can also tell me if I pronounce his last name right or not.
Yeah, it's always different in English than in Dutch. But I will start with the Dutch pronunciation. My name is Tim Itzenga, and so the very Dutch. Yeah, I work at Hogeschool Utrecht. I'm a teacher at electrical engineering. But how did I end up as a teaching fellow? I was teaching mathematics and physics, and I taught in mathematics course the students certain mathematical tricks, and then in the physics course they encountered the same situation as they were taught in the mathematics course, but the students were not aware that they can apply the mathematics that they were taught. So I figured, okay, if we are educating the students for the labor market, then perhaps we should adjust the mathematics course. And I suggested a different course for mathematics, applied for the teaching fellow grant, received that, I think it was 2022, applied the grant, and I saw, okay, and it had definitely had a positive effect on the students and how they can apply mathematics in the real world. So that was the main topic.
Thank you. That's great to hear, and great that also you had the opportunity to indeed get the mathematics students a bit of help in that.
Yeah.
Ingrid, can I give you the floor and the same question?
Thank you. Well, my name is Ingrid van Rompuy-Bartels. I work at Han, at the International School of Business. I have applied in the past to both. First to the teaching with my colleague who is not here present for the international classroom, and secondly alone for the senior with the project called Raising Global Citizens at Home. I do research on intercultural competence, and I have been observing that despite of the fact that we expect students to be developing those competences when they are working virtually, I could see that it was not always the case. And like you have seen, since COVID, we are now working very easily virtually, right? Look to our session right now. We don't need to go to the place anymore. But the fact is, do the students really learn about intercultural? Do they really learn to collaborate with others and observe and learn from other cultures and be more curious and empathetic? That was my whole research. After 2 years, I have developed many tools that have been integrated in my academy, International School of Business, and I'm even helping others in my academy to adopt what I have developed with my team. So it's how it has been embedded right now. So I'm also helping after the results to create more, how you say, there are more people working with the tools that have been developed for this Comenius.
Thank you, Ingrid. So you have quite a history and a background with Comenius, I hear. So do you remember how you the first time heard about Comenius? Is this something that's known within your institute, or?
I have to say that I tried for the first time when there is an advisor, of course, inside our institution, and he has spread the word and email who would be interested to do or to try the Comenius application. At that moment, I I took this opportunity with both hands because I'm trying to be an innovator in our institution, and it was something supporting the teachers. So I really like the idea. For the first time, I'm a researcher, but I'm also a teacher, and so for me that was a fantastic opportunity to really put my idea and to have support from outside that I was in the right path, let's say that. So I heard through my organization, but it was a very, let's say, a very general email to everyone that would be interested.
It's good to hear that I gave you the opportunity and the push to indeed develop that part as well of your career. And Tim, for you, it must have been also several years ago, the first time you've heard about Comenius. Is that something also at Hogeschool Utrecht that is commonly known, or how did it go for you?
Yeah, I think it's similar to Ingrid. I'm not sure whether, actually, I cannot quite remember how I got to the Comenius grant. But I know it came from the idea of, okay, I want to change the way we teach mathematics and to connect that to the real world. With that idea in the back of my mind, I came across the Comenius grant and said, okay, let's try this.
And then when you decided to try it, did you have any support from your institution? From colleagues or from subsidy advisors?
I asked for support at a research group. We have a mathematics educational research group. And yeah, the lecturer there was very eager to help me in that. And on the teaching level, yeah, I think the institution that I worked there, they were very unaware of grants like Comenius. But I think in that time, NRO had courses on or training exercises on for the Comenius grant, and I know I had an idea about how to form it into a concrete idea of what I actually want. Yeah, I think NRO has trainings in that, and that really helped me in forming the ideas to something that I could write on paper. But that's, as I understood in the presentation, that NRO doesn't do that anymore. Sorry.
Sadly enough, that's one of the things that the budget ended for, even though sadly enough we do it. There are external places where people can follow writing courses and the likewise, but sadly enough, not from the NRO anymore. But good to hear that
No,
back then it was a good help.
The thing that most helped me most is discussing this with people in the educational research group. Just talking about it, reflecting your ideas, that really helped me making it a concrete and manageable piece of idea.
I can imagine, because it's not necessarily a mathematics application. It's really about the education side as well of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ingrid, at your institution, did you find any help from colleagues or subsidy advisors, or was there anything available there?
Yes, definitely. Subsidy advisor. Well, I'm used to write, so but I always write and send this to the advisor because he's not involved when I'm writing. So it's very good to have someone that will be very critical and to raise the right questions, like, what do you mean by this? I always remember those kind of questions. And then I explain with my words. And then he said, but I don't read this here. And that was a moment that I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so in the topic. I'm so trying to say the things. And I'm saying a difficult way, or I'm not saying this at all. So I would advise anyone writing, please get someone to, an advisor would be great, or a lecturer or co-researcher or a colleague to read, but do not involve them in your writing. Why? Because the moment that they are involved in your writing, they don't see your black spots anymore. And you need someone that will read that and say, what do you mean by this? And well, I have to say this was for me the best advice I could have in the whole process is writing and having someone that raised the right questions.
That's some great advice, I think. As Anna said earlier, also our committee is very broad, but they're not necessarily from your field, so it has to be understandable for people. Education scientists, students are also on the committee, and they have to be able to understand your application as well. So that's definitely very good advice. And once you had everything from your institution set up, how did you experience the whole submission process after that?
Well, I have to tell you, because I was so eager with this, the first time, and you can see I have now a background with teaching and senior, but the first time I was quite nervous. Every time I got the email from NRO, I thought, oh my gosh, it's incomplete. What did I do wrong? Is something not right? Did they? So I thought, because I was really willing to, I put a lot of energy on this. So I was very nervous in the first time in the process. But when, and I didn't get the first time. Just to tell you already, I didn't get. I was finalist, but I didn't get it. So I received feedback, and I took the feedback very seriously, and I tried again the year after. And then I succeed. But during the second time, I was less nervous. I got to the emails and I thought, okay, I'm missing this. This is not clear. All right. It was, for me, it was like I needed that time to also to, how you say that, to not see, oh my gosh, this is, there is a criticism, there is something I'm not doing well. I was more relaxed. And I think this is very important also when you are doing this kind of applications.
Can I add something to that? Because Ingrid,
Yes?
you said you had applied for the teaching fellow grant twice. I applied for the teaching fellow grant 3 times. The first time I made it. Okay, the second time was similar as what Ingrid told, but the first time I made a more different error. You have several themes that you can apply for. And I was figuring, okay, my topic, if I can manage mail it a bit, then it would fit in this theme. The committee thought differently. So it was like, oh yeah, no, yeah, well, your idea doesn't fit in this theme, so here you have it back. Can I put it in another theme? No. Okay, that was the end of it. And the second time I applied, okay, now I'm going to do a theme that actually fits the okay, that was okay. And then I received the feedback, okay, it was not, they didn't consider it as innovative enough, and it wasn't innovative, but it was the way of writing. So in that case, I indeed took the feedback, took it seriously, and the year after rewritten the application, looking at the feedback, and third time was a charm. Yeah.
Thank you both for sharing this. I think that for new applicants, it's very worthwhile to see that even if it might not work the first time, eventually it might.
Yeah.
Alberto, I see that you have a question.
Yes, on this last point, thank you, team, very much for sharing that. On the last point is the first team in the new call, in this year's call, it's Education Forms of the Future. and then there are associated issues. I wonder, forms means really like, do they mean really the how how to teach, or even topic wise, what topic could be included in a given? So I do law, for example. So if you want to explore a change of curriculum or including new themes, I guess that fits more in the societal issue, or rather than in the education forms. I mean, I don't want to be too specific, but
Examples of new forms of education can be like student-driven education, learning communities, challenge-based learning, technology innovations, that kind of thing. So it's like new forms of innovation. How do you successfully implement them into your education? Also, our knowledge agenda on the website has like a much more elaborate description on each theme also. So I would definitely also recommend looking into that one. Yeah, and if you really doubt about the theme, there's always the open theme, the theme 4, let's say. So that's always an option as well. Tim,
don't try to push a square block into a round hole. It doesn't will not work.
Yeah, it's thanks. And Tim, so the rest of Brandon, you also have a question?
Yeah, I'm thinking about whether or not there's space for conceptual projects, or you really would like an applied project that we can directly implement. So I work on interdisciplinarity and interdisciplinary teaching, and a lot of the work is still quite conceptual, where there are applications, but not always. There's still some sort of theoretical conceptual work that needs to be done as well, and whether there's space for that there, or whether we should rather just focus on the implementation directly in the classroom. Of course, there's always implementations in the classroom, but it's at what level is best to pitch it.
Well, one of the criteria in which the committee will look very strictly at is the benefit that the students will have from the project. And with this, they will usually be looking at quite a direct benefit. So things like improving the work life of the teachers, for example, which indirectly benefits them, or doing a study that will lead to applied actual education forms that will benefit them. That's usually in my experience, they will consider maybe not directly benefiting the students themselves, and that's really the goal of Comenius, that it has to have that kind of real benefit. But of course, there is also there is room if indeed within the project that first has to do like a pilot, for example, or some research done. But in my experience, they would expect a lot of the theoretical parts to have been done before, and that this really is going to focus on doing the actual stuff to benefit and involve also the students.
So Brandon, if possible, would it be considering that part of the committee students are also part of the committee, so they are looking for a student from student perspective. In developing the grant proposal, would it be an idea to include students? Ask them, okay, do you see any benefits for yourself? Or
that's definitely a really good one. Yes. Yeah. So back to you, Tim. How did you experience the procedural part of the application and the process of getting it written and done and submitted?
Well, the first time I submitted it and received the response, not quite happy. But I understood putting a square block into a round hole is not an option. No, but the application process, NRO provides help if you have questions. Also, because with the response, I could contact NRO and say, okay, what does this mean? And so very helpful.
That's good. That's glad to hear for us as well that we, in the end, are perceived as helpful. That's always the goal. We are at the end on your side also.
Yeah, at that time it's very helpful to have a discussion with people from NRO that had experience with the Comenius program. They kept asking me questions like, "You wanted to do this? Why? what do you want to do? What do you want students to learn? And that continuously asking questions. But that was that.
That's good to hear. And when you did get your proposal, you got the letter, the congratulations, then the party was thrown with the department, and after that, when you had the start, how did that part go for you?
Well, I had the start was very I applied for the grant with the intention in the back of my head, with the intention in the grant to include a certain educational program, technische bedrijfskunde that was, and I had agreement with the program itself. Okay, you're going to be part of my project, but when it was actually granted, the grant was received, then that program said, "Oh no, we're not going to participate anymore." So I had to look for another study program that would help, and that led to some delay. I explained that to the Comenius committee, and I said, "Oh, okay." So I got an extension of the program just because it was my study population dropped when I received the grant, so I had to find another study population.
There were some complications.
Yes. Yeah. Basic idea, there were complications, but NRO was very lenient in that and gave me an extension of 6 months. So yeah, and that was really helpful because that resulted in a successful result.
Glad to hear. I'm glad that opportunity was also there. Yeah. Ingrid, how did it go for you after the champagne bottles popped and then you have to get to work? How did that process go for you?
Oh, I have two different experience with the teaching. My colleague, when I was the co-applicant, it was 2019. So we were testing in 2020, and then Corona came. So we never expect that. So I align with Tim. I can say we also had to ask for extension to our project because we had to deal with Corona and the fact that we could not test what we want to test after we developed the material. So that was one. And the second time when I got the senior, I have to say, I was so happy. I could not work anymore that day when I received the email. My daughter saw me in the back of the computer. I say, I got it. I don't believe it. And my daughter thought, what's going on, Mom? I say, that's Comenius. And I was so happy because everybody writing for Comenius understand you have to align with people. You have meetings. You have to write. You have to receive negative feedback. So when you get it, you are so happy. But then the work starts. And the work starts at the moment you get it, because sometimes they don't expect that you will get, and the academic year is already planned and everything. So you have to arrange and facilitate those people to be in your team. And the first semester is a lot of work, arranging everything, doing everything, especially if you do for the senior. So, but after that, yes, but you have to accommodate that the first months do not go always how you expect. So expect the unexpected. But because we have this energy behind us, and I think that Tim maybe share the same thing, you are so proud that after so much work, you get it. And you have the energy to, despite all things to happen, you keep going. That's what I have to say about the process. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it pays off.
Because I think what's behind this is that that's the same thing I understand with you, Ingrid, that for a Comenius grant, you want something to happen. You want something to happen in education because you believe that it works and that it should be there.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter whether it takes you 2 times, 3 times, 4 times to get a grant, because then that provides you with the facilitates you to make it happen. And then other people, if you have to convince them, if you just want it to happen, then yeah, they follow suit. They follow you because you want it to happen. I think that's one of the main things that made me do this, because I believed in this. I still believe in this. Because now, after the Comenius grant, okay, I've had an idea. This should work. In the population that actually got it, it did work. But now then I wondered, okay, it does work, but how does it work? And now I'm moving a step further and applied for an insight in inzicht in onderwijsvernieuwing, so insight in educational principles. Got that grant, so now I can study how my innovation, how the intervention actually work. Okay.
Yes. Thanks. That's that's great to hear this part as well. That once you get it, there's still a lot of work to be done to get everything also to work. And Ingrid, part of after you got the Comenius grant, then you were also a member of the Comenius network. Are there any activities that you've participated in or any experiences?
I participate in many activities. I'm like always the Comenius Festival, but also the workshops that they provide in these circles, precisely because the beauty in the Comenius is that as a teacher, as an innovator, and I see like Tim, you have the energy, you really believe in things that you are doing, and you really want to do something for the students. That's, I think, the passion that we share. And it's very clear also to see among the others that go to the Comenius. And when you go to those kind of activities, you see other kinds of methodologies, or you see things that you are not really aware of. So for me, that's a very nice opportunity to share knowledge and to create new knowledge and to share again back to our institution for the students. And like the calls that we have now, education is changing a lot. So we don't need every time to discover new things, but we need to share the knowledge that we have and improve what we are doing for the sake of students. And that's what I see in the Comenius network. People trying to improve in education, innovating small things, but that really make a change. So I think the activities around of being part of this network, yeah, they are great. So I'm sorry I cannot say less. And it's I'm very positive about that, and I try to bring all knowledge that I get in my institution and sharing with others. That's my experience.
That's great. And it makes us so happy to hear that you've had such a positive experience with the network. And also the Comenius Festival is next week, Tuesday, for people who don't know. So we are going to be walking around there as well. So if anyone doesn't know it yet, then it's always a fun day as well for everyone. And Tim, what about your experience with the Comenius network?
I did indeed attend events. And I have two experiences. The first one was that, okay, if I get there and I talk to other Comenius members, it's like, oh, I hear myself speaking, but because I want to change education, make it more suitable for students, and the other Comenius members, they want the same. If in my institution I talk to fellow teachers, they like, I want to change this. I want to think about it. They're okay, yeah, but I have to prepare that class or that test for the students. For most of the colleagues, just okay, they just do their work and it's not okay. So I didn't really find a reflection within the colleagues and within the Comenius network. Yeah, I see the same passion as for changing education. And another thing is, I think last time I attended a solutions room where we discuss possible potential solutions for issues in education. And actually the results from those solutions rooms, they go to the Minister of Education. Ooh, that was quite a hopefully that he actually does something with that, but okay. No, but it gives you an opportunity to change national policy. Although it may be a very small part, but yeah, you make a contribution. That was a good thing.
Good to hear that it's not just a valuable experience for networking, but also the impact that you can have through it is also a substantial thing.
Yeah.
And Tim, I believe you also participate in one of the assessment committees for the Comenius run, right?
For the senior fellow, yeah.
Yeah, can you say something what that's added, how you maybe look at the applications or your experience as a committee member?
Main thing I've learned from being a committee member is seeing through the glasses of a committee member. Because you read 10, 15 or 5, you read a number of applications, and there's something that triggers you in each application, and that really helped me seeing how I, as a committee member, should see an application. Helps me in, how should I write my own application? So that was really helpful. And also one of the things I learned is in the round that I was, there was one application where the applicant obviously wrote the application from her heart. And I was immediately triggered, okay, this is going to be it. And in the final meeting with the other committee members, surprisingly, every committee member put this application at the top of their list. I don't know why. Yeah. But that really helped me in writing my own applications, as in, okay.
Yeah, so it's not just the idea and conceptualization is one thing, but the enthusiasm and the passion of the applicant is also something you can read between the lines. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thanks. And Ingrid, you've also had experience as a committee member. How did that change the way you look at applications?
Let's say that when you're writing also for an application, you know that you have to follow the criteria very well. But when you are also an assessor, then it's even more important because you have the criteria and sometimes you have to concentrate. That is what you are going to assess, if it is there or not, and how explained is that in the application that you have to read. So I would say that from that perspective, I really learned to be more critical to my own work. When I write something, I really see that's what they are asking. That is what I have to say. Because you have only 1,000 words. I will say already, for me, that's a disaster because I need more words to explain my thoughts sometimes. And people say, you need to be shorter. And I learn now to be shorter because I just see that's the criteria, that's the point, that's the question. And so that's how you should write. And that's what I'm going to assess. And like Tim said, it really pops up and when you are in the assessment committee, when you see the people writing from the bottom of their heart, you see that it's definitely there. And I have to say that most of the time, the finalist is sometimes it's difficult to select the good one because there are so many teachers with different kind of ideas that are good, very good, but you have a limitation of number of grants. So, and that's the moment that I would say, if you get a no, look to Tim, look to me. If you really believe you are going to do something to help to innovate in education, to improve the life of the students and how they learn and what they learn, don't give up if you receive for the first time, you don't have the grant. So that's important. And keep very clear in your mind the criteria. They are there for you and they are there for the assessors. We really follow those kind of things.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's also indeed very valuable advice from both of you. Very valuable advice. Also, to hear someone from the committee point of things, indeed. And so those were all my general questions. I wonder if there are any, that's maybe an open question to the both of you, any last advice or tips or things or anecdotes you haven't had the chance to tell our listeners yet?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there are any questions from our listeners for you about your
That would help,
experience? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I wonder a little bit about the sorry, I don't remember the category here. Whether your profile is appropriate, if you can speak a little bit more about what you see there that makes somebody's profile, that last 30%, I don't remember the exact educational profile of the applicant, right? Is what you see that makes that profile worthwhile in terms of how we would explain ourselves there.
If I may, Tim, please compliment if you think. Regarding the profile, when you have an idea of something that you think that should be different in education, that idea has to be aligned with your background. If you are really someone with expertise to talk about that innovation that you want to implement, like I'm an expert in intercultural competence and topic on global citizenship, so my application is aligned with this background, and that's what the committee wanted to see. So if I would apply for mathematics, like in a completely different research, people would say, but that's not your background. So then it would be a mismatch, right? So you really need to have the background for the innovation that you want to implement in your in your department or in your academy or institution.
No, I agree.
And maybe I guess if I can go, one other part of that is the expected results. I think Anne mentioned sort of it's the best solution given the context. Is how do you motivate that? I mean, there's oftentimes a variety of possible ways of doing that. Is it only based on your experience that, look, this works in the classroom, so that's why I'm passionate about it? Or, where maybe you can complement that with some literature, but how do you sort of justify that is really the best approach that's worthwhile being funded? Or what do you see, at least in your assessments?
I would say make it plausible that the solution that you want to implement is the best solution for this context. You cannot prove it, I think. You can make it plausible by using examples from other contexts, examples from your own experience. Literature is obvious. I think that you have to convince the committee, and how you do it, that's really, there's no one way to do it.
Thank you. Are there any other further questions? If not, then There's always, if any other questions come up afterwards, you can always contact us at comenius@nro.nl. We are always happy to help you out. And then if there's nothing else, then I would like to extend my gratitude to our speakers, our experts here. It's incredibly valuable to hear your side of the things as well. We can explain our side from the procedure, but to hear your real life experience is really valuable. We hear that every year's feedback from applicants. So thank you very much. This recording is going on a website, so it'll be seen by eventually a lot more people busy with their applications. So we're really grateful for that. So thank you a lot.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Great. And well, in that case, then I would like to wish you all a happy weekend at the end of the day. And let's keep in touch. Thank you all so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.